Welcome, restless souls, to Carmen's Crypt. I'm Carmen Carrion, keeper of forgotten tales and curator of nightmares. You've wandered into my domain, where each week I unearth a fresh horror from the depths of human imagination. In these darkened halls, stories wait like hungry shadows. Each tale we've collected whispers of terrors both ancient and new. From crumbling mansions where something skitters behind the walls, to that strange text message you received at 3 a.m. from a number that shouldn't exist. So gather close. The candles are lit, the shadows grow long, and the witching hour is upon us. Are you prepared to face what lurks in the darkest recesses of Carmen's Crypt? Lock your doors, still your nerves, and remember, here, every fear comes alive. This is Carmen's Crypt. Your sanctuary of scares awaits. This work of speculative fiction explores an imagined what-if scenario set in a distant future. It is a creative thought experiment that uses elements of science fiction and horror to examine themes of evolution, technology, and human adaptation. The story's premise is purely fictional and exists solely in the realm of imaginative storytelling. This narrative is not intended to make any statement about real-world medical treatments, public health policies, or current events. It does not reflect any political stance or medical advice. Like many works of science fiction, it takes a real-world starting point and spins it into an entirely fictional future scenario for the purpose of entertainment and creative exploration. The author acknowledges the sensitivity of themes related to public health and medical decisions. This story is offered in the spirit of what-if storytelling, the same spirit that asks what if dinosaurs were cloned, what if aliens visited Earth, or what if humans could teleport. It is meant for readers who enjoy exploring unusual ideas through the lens of science fiction and horror. Reader discretion is advised. This story contains elements of body horror and violence typical of the horror genre. The first time Anya noticed something was wrong, she was studying her reflection in the smart glass mirror of her Manhattan apartment, 40 stories above the elevated streets. Like most citizens of 2075, she was equipped with the standard suite of technological enhancements: retinal implants for augmented reality and information feeds, a quantum-linked medical monitoring bracelet that tracked her vitals, neural interface nodes at the base of her skull for connecting to the global health network, and a subdermal ID chip that granted her access to secure areas of the city. These were all external to her body's evolutionary changes, tools rather than modifications to her genetic structure. The smart glass mirror displayed readouts from all these devices in pale blue holographic text, another government-mandated addition to every home after the mass deaths of 2045. Through the polarized windows, she could see the artificial aurora dancing above the city, shifting curtains of green and purple light from the atmospheric processor struggling to repair the ozone layer. Her canine teeth seemed longer, sharper than before. The mirror's medical scan highlighted them in warning yellow, comparing them to her baseline dental records. Not dramatically different, just enough to make her tongue pause when it swept across them. She leaned closer, examining the subtle points that hadn't been there yesterday. Or had they? These days, with genetic drift and spontaneous mutation so common, it was hard to tell what was natural and what wasn't. The news feeds projected onto her retinal implants were filled with stories about third-generation cases like her. Most focused on the deaths, the unexplained blood clots, the rare hematological disorders, the mysterious autoimmune conditions. No one talked about how it had all started anymore. The engineered virus that had first appeared in 2019, precisely designed to target the elderly and infirm. Then the vaccine that was supposed to complete the culling, finishing what the virus had started. 90% of third-generation vaccine recipients died before reaching 30. The World Health Alliance called it Transgenerational Immune Response Syndrome, or TIRS. Everyone else called it the legacy. But few understood it was the final echo of a plan set in motion decades ago. A two-part system of engineered virus and vaccine, meant to reshape humanity through selective elimination. Anya's grandmother had been among the first to receive the vaccine back in 2021. Margaret Langley had survived both the engineered virus and its companion vaccine, not knowing they were two parts of the same culling program. She had lived another 15 years before a massive stroke took her at 45. The autopsy revealed unusual blood vessel formations in her brain, the first sign that the virus-vaccine combination was doing more than just eliminating those deemed unfit. Anya's mother had been next, getting her first dose while barely 3 months old. Tara Langley died 3 years ago from what the quantum diagnostic systems called an aggressive form of blood cancer. But it wasn't cancer. It was the unintended consequence of surviving both parts of the culling program. Genetic changes compounding across generations in ways its creators had never anticipated. Anya remembered the lesions that had appeared on her mother's skin in those final months, how the advanced imaging systems had shown her blood turning thick and dark, almost black in the collection vials. Even the experimental stem cell treatments grown in the orbital laboratories hadn't been able to save her. Now at 31, Anya was part of the 10% who hadn't succumbed to TERS. But survival came with its own price. The changes were deeper than anyone had anticipated. The engineered virus and its vaccine partner had rewritten something fundamental in their genetic code. Her heightened senses outperformed any technological enhancement. Her strength triggered structural stress sensors, and her sense of smell could detect information that even advanced chemical analyzers missed. The hunger was the worst part, a deep primal urge that made her muscles twitch and her evolved teeth ache. Raw meat from the hydroponic ranches helped, but lately even that wasn't enough. She needed something else, something more, something pure. In the kitchen, she pressed her palm against the biometric scanner of her specialized refrigerator. Inside, packages of raw organ meat, cloned from premium stock in the orbital agriculture rings, were neatly arranged on sterile trays. Her doctor had prescribed them for what they called her specialized dietary requirements. But they all knew it was more than that. The virus-vaccine combination had done more than just cull the weak. It had created predators. The same doctor had referred her to a special support group, where he said she would meet others like her. The support group met in an abandoned mag-level station beneath Lower Manhattan. As Anya descended the crumbling stairs, she did find others like her, survivors of both the engineered virus and its vaccine companion. Their eyes gleamed with an unnatural blue glow, a marker of their changed biology. The station lay in one of the city's few surveillance blind spots, where even the most advanced AI systems couldn't penetrate. 12 others stood or crouched in the shadows, their evolved forms moving with that same graceful motion she recognized in herself. The scent of their changed biology filled the air, a metallic sweet smell that cut through the sterile filtered atmosphere of the underground. Some were older, third-generation survivors like herself, while others were younger, their mutations even more pronounced. In the dim light, she could see their elongated teeth gleaming, their pale skin almost luminescent, all of them marked by the same hunger that drove her. Helena emerged from the shadows, her movements liquid smooth. "Each generation, the changes get stronger," she said. "The virus weakened the genetic structures they wanted to eliminate. The vaccine was supposed to finish the job, but in some of us, in our children, it created something else, something hungry." She gestured to the others gathered in the darkness. "We're what happens when you survive both parts of their culling program. Not just survive, but adapt. The virus and vaccine together rewrote our DNA in ways they never expected. Now we need pure human genetic material to sustain these changes. The hunger isn't just hunger. It's our modified biology crying out for untainted DNA." The truth hit Anya like a physical blow. They weren't just predators, they were genetic monsters that craved the untouched DNA of the unvaccinated, created by an engineered pandemic and its vaccine partner. Their bodies craved the pure genetic material of those who had survived the virus and avoided the vaccine, those whose DNA remained unaltered by the culling program. The World Health Alliance knows, Helena continued. They've been tracking us, studying how the virus-vaccine combination changed us. Their quantum computers can't predict what we're becoming because we're still evolving, generation by generation. Each child born to survivors carries these changes further, becomes something less human and more something else. You feel it, don't you? Helena asked, turning to Anya. The hunger, the way it changes you. Her eyes caught the dim light, reflecting that same unnatural blue Anya had seen in her own mirror. Anya nodded, her throat dry. The raw meat helps, but it's not enough anymore. Helena's smile revealed teeth identical to Anya's new ones. We've learned why, what we really need, what we're becoming. The implication made Anya's head spin. The way they moved, the teeth, the enhanced senses, they were turning into predators. And if raw meat wasn't enough? The World Health Alliance suspects something, Helena continued, but they can't prove anything. Not even their quantum computers can predict what we're becoming. As long as we're careful, as long as we follow the rules, we can survive. Rules? Anya whispered, part of her already knowing, already feeling the hunger sharpen at the thought. Never hunt alone. Never take more than needed. And never, ever leave evidence. Helena's eyes gleamed. Would you like to learn how? The group moved silently through maintenance tunnels that hadn't seen human traffic in decades, beneath the towering arcologies that had replaced traditional buildings. They emerged in an isolated part of Central Park's biodome, where the reconstruction efforts hadn't yet reached after the climate riots of 2045. Here, among the gene-modified trees and radiation-resistant plants, patches of natural growth still survived. There, Helena whispered, pointing to a small encampment hidden among the trees. Tech naturals, unregistered, unvaccinated. No neural links, no genetic modification, no connection to the global health network. The tech naturals were those who had seen through both deceptions, the engineered virus and its companion vaccine. They had chosen to face both threats with only their natural immunity, letting true survival of the fittest determine who lived and died. Over 3 decades, while the vaccinated population dealt with increasingly unstable mutation from the virus-vaccine combination, the tech naturals had evolved naturally to face the new world. They were what humanity became when it faced the culling program head-on and emerged stronger, rather than being shaped by uncontrolled genetic cascade effects. They were stronger, faster, and more resilient, not because of technological enhancement or genetic manipulation, but because each generation had successfully adapted to survive in a world of environmental toxin and radiation. They used technology as tools, but their bodies remained purely human, shaped only by natural evolution. No one will miss them, Helena whispered. The scent of pure human blood was overwhelming now, making Anya's vision sharpen until she could count the heartbeats of the sleeping people below, their bodies lacking the electromagnetic signatures of common augmentations. The first kill happened in a blur of primal instinct. One moment Anya was crouching in the shadows, the next she was on him, a young man who had wandered from the camp. Her evolved teeth found his throat with savage precision, piercing through skin and muscle until she felt the hot pulse of his carotid artery against her tongue. The first spray of blood hit the back of her throat like liquid fire, pure and clean and alive with untainted DNA. His struggles grew weaker as she drank deeply, her mutated body singing with each swallow of uncorrupted genetic material. Arterial blood painted the ground around them in dark patterns, steam rising from the puddles in the cold night air. Her enhanced strength kept him pinned as his heels drummed against the earth in weakening spasms. When she finally pulled back, her face and chest were drenched in crimson. Fragments of torn flesh hung from her elongated teeth, and she could feel strips of his throat caught beneath her fingernails where she had gripped too hard. The body twitched one final time, blood still pumping weakly from the ragged wound that had once been his neck. But it was his eyes that haunted her, wide and glassy, reflecting the artificial aurora above as they stared sightlessly at the dome. In them she saw the last moments of terror as he realized that humanity had become both the predator she had been turned into by the virus vaccine's unintended evolution and the prey he had been born as, pure and unmodified. She felt her body absorbing his genetic material, felt it strengthening her mutated cells. The hunger finally, briefly subsided, but she knew it would return. It would always return. This was what the virus-vaccine combination had made her, a creature that could only survive by consuming those who had escaped its influence. The changes accelerated after that first kill. Her teeth elongated fully, becoming elegant instruments of predation. Her skin hardened slightly, taking on a pale, almost luminescent quality that deflected standard medical scans. Her muscles became denser, more powerful, setting off warnings on her monitoring bracelet that she learned to hack and suppress. The pack accepted her fully after her first kill. They taught her their ways, showed her how to move through the city's blind spots, the gaps between surveillance zones where even the most advanced AI couldn't track them. They shared their knowledge of how to hunt, how to identify the unvaccinated by their lack of technological signatures, how to dispose of evidence in ways that confused even forensic quantum computers. But it was Helena who taught her the most important lessons. "We're not monsters," she said one night as they watched the city from a rooftop garden, the fluorescent algae farms glowing in the distance, atmospheric processors painting the clouds with artificial light. "We're the next step." The vaccine didn't just change us. It awakened something that was always there, something that humanity had forgotten. The others died because they weren't strong enough to complete the change. We survived because we were meant to. The disappearances didn't go unnoticed. News feeds began reporting on missing persons, all of them unregistered citizens who had avoided the vaccine programs. The automated police drones increased their patrols. New quantum encryption security measures were implemented in the lower levels of the arcologies. But the pack was always one step ahead, their enhanced senses and abilities making them invisible even to the most advanced detection systems. One evening, as Anya prepared for another hunt, her enhanced hearing picked up a fragment of conversation between two police officers 50 stories below. Their words carried through the vibrations in the building's carbon fiber frame. "Another body found in the East River filtration system. Same marks on the throat, same black residue in the blood. The AI analysis is showing patterns we've never seen before." Helena appeared beside her, moving with impossible silence. "They're starting to notice patterns," she said. "We need to be more careful, or less careful. Sometimes the best way to hide is in plain sight." She smiled, her teeth gleaming in the glow of the artificial aurora. "Besides, there are more of us now. Every day, another survivor finds their way to us. Soon, we won't need to hide at all." But that night, something felt different about their prey. The quantum sensors in Anya's monitoring bracelet registered an anomaly first, heightened electromagnetic activity that didn't match any known technological signature. She crouched in the shadows of a vertical algae farm, its bioluminescent tanks casting strange patterns across the reinforced plasteel walkway. Below, the group of supposed tech naturals moved with military precision through the abandoned lower levels of Arcology Block 7. "Something's wrong," Anya sub-vocalized through the pack's secure quantum channel. Her enhanced vision picked out details that disturbed her. Their muscles moved too smoothly, their reactions too quick for unmodified humans, yet her senses detected no implant, No genetic modifications, none of the technological markers that characterized modern humanity. Helena's voice whispered back through their neural link. "They're hunting us. They've been hunting us for months." A pause. "Did you really think we were the apex predators, Anya? That evolution only worked in one direction?" The truth hit her as the first attack came. A woman from the group below moved with impossible speed, crossing 50 meters of vertical space in seconds without any visible technological assistance. Her eyes, when they met Anya's, held the same predatory intelligence, but there was something else there. Something older, purer. The fight was brutal and swift. Anya's enhanced strength, her evolved teeth and claws, meant nothing against the raw power of her opponent. The woman moved like liquid mercury, every strike precise, every dodge perfectly timed. She fought with the accumulated knowledge of generations of natural selection, while Anya's artificial evolution was barely 3 generations deep. Through the neural link, Anya felt other members of her pack falling. Their enhanced senses, their modified bodies, their technological advantages, all of it useless against these creatures. These humans who had never accepted the vaccine, who had allowed natural selection to work its course over 3 decades of environmental catastrophe and societal collapse. As she fell back, blood streaming from a dozen wounds her accelerated healing couldn't close fast enough, Anya accessed the global health network through her neural interface. The truth was there, buried in encrypted files that her evolved brain could suddenly decode. Studies showing that unvaccinated populations had developed natural resistance, not just to the original virus, but to the environmental toxins, the radiation, all of it. They had evolved the old way, through survival of the fittest, while the vaccinated population had tried to force evolution through artificial means. Our grandparents' generation tried to cheat nature, her opponent said, moving through the holographic warning signs and security barriers as if they didn't exist. They tried to force evolution with technology, with genetic modification, with artificial selection, but nature always finds a way. At first glance, the woman appeared deceptively ordinary, tall and lean, but not unnaturally so. It was only in motion that her true nature became apparent. Her muscles rippled with impossible efficiency beneath olive skin that had evolved to filter radiation while still synthesizing vitamin D. Every movement was precisely controlled, without an ounce of wasted energy. Her features were striking but symmetrical, shaped by generations of subtle selection for optimal sensory awareness, high cheekbones that housed enhanced sinuses for superior smell, slightly larger eyes adapted for better night vision, and a stronger jaw that hinted at increased bite force without appearing brutal. Her hair was a deep black that seemed to absorb light, thick and resilient against environmental toxins. When she moved, it was with a predator's grace. Not the artificial fluidity of Anya's kind, but something more primal and perfect. Her hands were elegant but powerful, with slightly longer fingers and enhanced grip strength that had evolved naturally over generations. The woman's eyes were perhaps her most remarkable feature, a deep amber color adapted for superior vision across multiple light spectrums, yet entirely natural. She wore simple, practical clothing that didn't restrict her movement and carried herself with the unconscious confidence of an apex predator. Unlike Anya's obvious mutations, the elongated teeth and luminescent skin, this woman's evolutionary advantages were subtle, harmonious adaptations that worked together perfectly. She was what 50 years of pure natural selection looked like. Human evolution optimized for survival in a harsh new world without any artificial interference. The woman's movements were beautiful in their savagery, untainted by technological enhancement or genetic manipulation. She was what humanity might have become naturally, if they had had the courage to face extinction and emerge stronger. Instead, they had created creatures like Anya. Predators, yes, but ultimately flawed. Evolutionary dead ends. Through her neural link, Anya watched the pack's hunting grounds fall one by one. The unvaccinated had organized, had bred for strength, had created their own society in the shadows of the arcologies, while the vaccinated population had relied on technology to survive the environmental collapse. These people had adapted. They had become something more than human, not through artificial modification, but through the most ancient law of nature: adapt or die. Helena's voice came through the neural link one last time, breaking through the quantum encryption with dying urgency. They're not just hunting us. They're cleansing the gene pool. We're the weakness in the species, don't you see? We're what happens when you try to force evolution. They're what happens when you let it run its course. The woman stalking Anya through the vertical farm moved like a force of nature, each step deliberate, unstoppable. Her body showed none of the mutations that marked Anya's kind. No elongated teeth, no hardened skin, no glowing eyes. She didn't need them. She was what 3 decades of pure, unassisted evolution had created: a perfect predator. Your kind always hunts alone, the woman said, her voice carrying easily through the filtered air. Even in packs, you're alone, separated by your technology, your modifications, your artificial changes. We hunt together. We evolve together. That's why we're stronger. As if to prove her point, more figures emerged from the shadows, dozens of them moving with the same grace, the same unstoppable purpose. They had none of the technological signatures that Anya's enhanced senses were designed to detect, none of the modifications that modern society depended on. They were pure human evolution, stripped down to its most essential form: survival. The artificial aurora painted the scene in shades of green and purple as Anya backed away, her enhanced muscles trembling against the arcology's carbon fiber walls. Her quantum-linked medical bracelet flashed urgent warnings about genetic instability, about cellular breakdown, about the very modifications that had kept her alive now beginning to fail. Through her neural interface, she watched the last signals from her pack fade into digital silence, their enhanced bodies proving no match for natural evolution. The woman, their leader, approached with calm certainty of a natural predator. Your kind never understood, the woman said, her voice carrying the weight of generations of natural selection. The vaccine was humanity's attempt to skip the hard path, to avoid the culling that nature demands. But look at what it created: creatures that can only survive by feeding on the strong. Parasites, not predators. Above them, medical drones swept the area with scanning beams, their quantum sensors seeking patterns they would never find. The World Health Alliance's AI systems had been programmed to recognize technological threats, to counter artificial evolution. They were blind to the pure, natural power that now moved through their city. Anya's enhanced vision caught glimpses of their true nature, subtle mutations that had developed naturally over decades. Not the obvious changes like her elongated teeth or luminescent skin, but deeper adaptations, denser muscle fibers that required no technological enhancement, nervous systems that processed information faster than any quantum computer, immune systems that had evolved to thrive in the toxic atmosphere of 2075. "Please," Anya gasped, her artificially enhanced voice cracking. "We can coexist. We can't—" "No," the woman interrupted. "Your existence is an evolutionary dead end. The vaccine created creatures that can only survive by feeding on the strong. You're a corruption in the gene pool, a failed experiment in guided evolution. Nature demands balance." Through her failing neural link, Anya accessed the last encrypted files from the Global Health Network. The truth was there in cold, clinical data. The vaccine hadn't just modified their immune systems. It had introduced artificial evolutionary pressures, creating creatures that could only sustain their enhanced abilities by consuming the pure genetic material of unvaccinated humans. They weren't the next step in evolution. They were a parasitic offshoot, dependent on the very humans they hunted. The woman's pack moved with practiced efficiency, herding Anya away from the arcology security systems into a dead zone where not even the most advanced AI could monitor them. Her enhanced strength was fading now. Anya's legs gave out, her enhanced muscles finally failing. The smart fabric of her clothing registered the collapse, tried to compensate with supportive tension, but it was useless against the fundamental breakdown of her artificial evolution. Through eyes that were rapidly losing their enhanced vision, she saw the truth of what humanity had become. These creatures, these pure humans, had weathered 3 decades of natural selection in a world of environmental collapse, radiation, and toxic atmospheres. Each generation had grown stronger, faster, more resilient, not through technology or genetic modification, but through the brutal efficiency of evolutionary pressure. They were what humanity might have become naturally if they had had the courage to face extinction and emerge stronger. The woman knelt beside Anya, her movements carrying the fluid grace of true evolutionary success. Your kind hunts the unvaccinated because you need our pure genetic material to survive, but we hunt you because you're a threat to the species itself. A dead end that would drag humanity away from its true evolutionary path. As Anya's enhanced senses faded, she saw her death not as murder, but as natural selection in action. Her artificial evolution, born of humanity's fear and technological hubris, was being culled by the very forces of nature they had tried to circumvent. In her last moments, she understood that true evolution couldn't be forced or accelerated. It had to be earned, generation by generation, through the ancient law of survival of the fittest. High above, through the atmospheric processor's artificial light, a natural star finally became visible, pure, unchanged, eternal. In its light, Anya saw the future of humanity, not in the artificial evolution of the vaccinated, but in the pure, natural strength of those who had chosen the harder path. They were the true next step in human evolution, proven not by technology, but by the oldest law of nature itself. The woman's hand was gentle as she ended Anya's life, an act of mercy from a superior predator. The last thing Anya saw through her enhanced eyes was her own reflection in a shattered smart glass window, a creature of artificial evolution, facing extinction in a world where natural selection had finally reasserted its dominance. In the end, nature had found its way. And so, dear listeners, we emerge from another dark corner of Carmen's crypt. But remember, the horrors you've heard tonight are merely echoes of the terrors that await in the shadows of your own mind. If you enjoyed your stay in the crypt, why not invite a friend to join us next week? After all, fear is best when shared. Leave a review if you dare, or share your own tales of terror on my social media. Who knows, your nightmares might just become my next story. Until next time, keep checking under your bed, and remember, in Carmen's crypt, every fear comes alive, and no one is truly safe. Sweet dreams, if you can still sleep at all.